Hello everyone, welcome back to my channel. Today let's go over another premium hard question in the database/pandas category that I just solved on my own. So again, I'm glad that I was able to come up with my own solution to this question without any assistance and do it relatively easily. So let's go over it and let me show you how I did it. This one's called Generate the Invoice 2362. It asks you to write a solution to show the details of the invoice with the highest price and two more invoices, higher price, return the details, smallest invoice ID. Okay, so doesn't matter the ordering. So let's look at the example. I like to look at this. I don't like to read the text. So here we have what you want to do is have the invoice ID and the quantity and the product. So 200 for invoice ID. This one's going to be 600. This one's going to be 400 because 100 times 400. So 2 actually has 1,000. Okay, for invoice ID 4 has 1,000 as well. So obviously 2 and 4 are the results, but we want to return 2. So just grab everything from 2 and put it here. The invoice ID and the quantity, invoice ID, or sorry, the product ID and the quantity, product ID, quantity, and the price. So product ID, quantity, and price here as well. So that for this one would be 1 and 4, and 2 and 3 lines up. And if you do 1 times 4, means 100 times 4, you get 400. Okay, so if we know that, let's go ahead and get all the invoice IDs. Let's actually map the product ID to the price first in a dictionary. So let's call this prod. Let's make this dictionary. To refresh the page, why does the return statement or the return key on my keyboard never work in Safari? Anyways, so for IP, it enumerates products, product ID. So again, we want to map the product ID to products price of I. Okay, so we can get it. And then the next step is to get all the invoice IDs because we're looking for the invoice ID with the highest sale price, which is the product ID times the quantity. So the price times the quantity, which is going to be, you get that through the product ID. Okay, so let's call this default dict of type integer because we just want the biggest one. So for IP, it enumerates purchases, product ID. So again, the quantity is going to be purchases product or quantity of I, and then the actual product itself. So let's call this A. It's not a good variable name, but it's just going to be prod of P. So the current cost is going to be Q times A. Let's print our cost. Okay, cool. So now what we're going to do is say, so we care about the invoice ID, right? So we're going to say D ID, invoice ID, purchases, invoice ID of I. So then we're just going to use that as the key, and we're going to add the cost because, for example, these two, we're going to add 600 to the key of 2, 400 to the key of 2. That's going to end up with a total of 1,000 for the key of 2, and that's just to demonstrate ones with multiple invoice IDs. So let's print our dictionary. Cool. So now we can look for the highest price. So let's call this HP, -1. Let's go through our dictionary and just update HP if the current value of the key that we're looping through is bigger than HP was. Let's print HP. Cool. So now we have the highest price. And now we can just go over our dictionary again. And let's say if DK happens to be equals to highest price, so the one where happens to be highest price, then just add this to an answer list. Answer.append the invoice ID itself. And we want to sort the invoice IDs so that we can get the smallest one if there are multiple, which is always going to be index 0. So the target is just going to be answer of 0, which is the smallest invoice ID. Okay, so now we can It makes it easy because we're just looking for key of 2. Anything that's key of 2, get everything inside of it. So for IP, it enumerates purchases invoice ID. If P is equal to smallest ID, then we're just going to get the product ID, the quantity, and the price. So the product ID, quantity is going to be, and the price, or let's just say the cost, is going to be purchases product ID of I, quantity, purchases, quantity of I, and then the price is going to be, so the PID, let's make this easier, purchases, product ID of I, so I'll just call this PID, and then what's the name? Prod PID, okay, prod PID. So the cost is times quantity. Let's print PID, Q, and cost. Okay, cool. So now we basically have everything we need. That doesn't seem right. Why is it product ID times the quantity? Yes, if it's equal to answer 0, it's not 2000. Why is this acting like this? Purchases, quantity of I. Okay, so we don't need this here. See what that looks like? Okay, cool. Much better, because I guess Q was getting multiplied at before it was set or something. It's a weird bug. Okay, anyways. So now we basically have a result. This makes things a lot easier because we can just fill these columns, right? Each column is like this. So 1, 2, 3, I do my usual thing. 1, first column, second column, third column, and then define an empty data frame as I always do. So the skeleton of product ID is going to be the first. Quantity and price. So here and then here. And then just return the data frame. Okay, let's run this. Okay, submit it. And there you go, passes all test cases. Again, really happy that I was able to solve this question on my own without any assistance and come up with my own solution. The runtime isn't the best, but again, this does represent my own work, which is the main purpose of my channel. So, yep, that's it for this video. Hope you enjoyed as always, and stay tuned for more.